What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update. No transfers to talk about today. Well, maybe one. But what we are going to start off with is Antonio Conte. And Antonio Conte recently became unwell with severe abdominal pain, and following a diagnosis, he underwent surgery to remove his gallbladder, and he'll return for a following period of recuperation. Antonio Conte said on Instagram following his surgery, "Thank you for your lovely messages. My surgery has gone well and I'm already feeling better. Now it's time to recover. I can't wait to get back on the field with the team." Dan Kilpatrick said today that Antonio Conte is still in Italy recuperating from his operation, and it's very unlikely that he will be on the touchline against Manchester City. However, there is some hope, though, that he could be well enough to be inside the stadium. Corriere dello Sport were reporting that Antonio Conte is expected to be back on the bench for the Leicester game, or potentially the AC Milan game in the Champions League. But we all wish Antonio Conte the best over his recovery.
Yeah, and we've been hearing that he's been spending a lot of time in Italy recently, and he's got his family around him, so that's really positive. Hopefully they put in a big performance for him. I'm not sure if he'll be in the stadium or not. As you say, there are conflicting reports. We'll have to wait and see, but with Stellini will take over the reins for the next game or two at least, and hopefully the squad can rally around together a bit like they did beforehand when they've suffered previous losses, and well, they haven't suffered a loss here, but when they've had other situations previously, they have really rallied around and put in a performance for the situation. Hopefully they can do that again for Antonio against Man City on Sunday. But obviously wishing him all the best, Antonio Conte, and the quicker he gets back on the touchline, the better, because we need him. Yeah, absolutely. But let's move on and let's talk about Fabio Paratici now, because he addressed the fans yesterday on the Spurs YouTube channel. The video got uploaded, then it got taken down, then it got re-uploaded. Apparently the reason why it was taken down is because he was talking about Destiny Udogie, and he was talking about what a great right foot he has when he's actually left-footed. So they took it down, they edited it, they re-uploaded it, and we're going to go through some of the quotes that has been said in that interview. So let's get into it. Yeah, the main point he was talking about is his overall assessment of the January transfer window. He was asked to assess it. He said the January transfer window every time is not easy, because the first thing is you can't choose in all the market, because a lot of players are not available because they are playing for other clubs and they're not happy to sell the player. Sometimes you can get your targets. So we are happy that we joined our targets and we added 2 international players to our squad. I think we have to not look at the small picture of this window, but the big picture of our project. It's a long-term project. So when I came here 18 months ago, we used the word rebuild the squad to be competitive at the higher level in the Premier League, and we continue to do this. So every window we sought to add 2 or 3 players, 2 or 3 pieces to our squad and to our plan. We want to sign just players that can add something to us, not just sign players because we know we have to sign players or because we are under pressure to sign players. That's not our style. We know our plan and we know our philosophy, and we continue like this.
Look,
so that's interesting.
I get what he's saying, and I kind of as well see the vision right now, and I see that the team is coming together. But when you hire Antonio Conte, you need to do more, and you need to get the job done quicker, because his contract runs out until the end of the season, and we only signed Antonio Conte up in an 18-month deal or whatever it may be. So in my opinion, this project needed to be done a bit quicker whilst Antonio Conte is here, because we're building a team now for an Antonio Conte system, and he might not be here next year. So still, the planning is still all up in the air. Fine, it's great that the players are coming in, and it's great when you look at Arsenal, and they did the 3-year plan, and they did it really well, and it looks as though we're doing something of a similar ilk. But it doesn't really work when you don't know who the manager is going to be next season.
You can't really talk about a long-term project when the person who's heading it isn't necessarily there for the long term. That's the difficulty. So he never really clarified anything about Conte or anything like that in this interview. But I'm assuming it's because I'm guessing that's still up in the air. We all know it is. So yeah, I like a lot of the moves that we've made in the market, and I'm looking at the squad now in the first 11. I can kind of see a long-term vision there, but still while Conte, his future's undecided, it's going to be very difficult to move forward and be excited about the future.
And look, I'm all for having long-term projects, and again, like you say, I'm very happy with the profile of player that we're bringing in at the moment. When you look at the likes of Christian Romero, Dejan Kulusevski, Rodrigo Bentancur, Pedro Porro, Destiny Adoji, you know, all great players that can be here for the long term and get to quite a high level. But I think everything needs to be aligned in the whole football club. You can't have a manager here for the short term with his contract running out, and when he got here anyway, he wasn't here for a long-term project. He only signed an 18-month contract. So the club is saying one thing and the manager is on a completely different wavelength. So it's very frustrating. But what else has been said?
Yeah, on Pedro Porro, I guess the most interesting stuff he said about Pedro Porro is that they were tracking Pedro Porro even last summer, and they tried to sign him, but it wasn't possible last summer. But when they saw that there was an opportunity to do so in January, they went for it. And what she says, when you have a target and you believe in that player and you believe that he is the best you can have, you have to fight until the end. And this time we arrived to the target, and that's what maybe we've criticised our recruitment of not doing in previous windows, of when we've really identified a target and we've come unstuck because of a breakdown in negotiations, and maybe we could have done more to get those negotiations back on side, and we didn't, and we end up missing out on players that would have been crucial to our team. I'm glad that Paratici has seen that this player is crucial to our team, and we fought tooth and nail to bring him in.
Yeah, we did fight tooth and nail, but it did seem at one stage, the day before the window ended, that we had lost him. And when you're looking at other teams, like even teams that are nowhere near have the financial capabilities that we have, teams like Bournemouth and Brighton. Yeah, I know Brighton have just recently got a whole influx of money, but still they don't have the financial power that we have. When you see teams like that just going and meeting teams' releases clause willy-nilly, and we're fighting around trying to, argue or the structure of the deal for so many days and weeks, and it gets so frustrating when in the first week of the window they could have just met his release clause. He could have played in the North London derby, in that Man City game, in games that we desperately needed him in January. We're fighting all the way to the end just to fight about structures when we could have brought him in so much earlier, when you see so many other teams just going and meeting that release clause.
Don't disagree, and if we would have missed out on this deal because of these things, then that would have been the ultimate frustration. But thankfully we finally got over the line, but didn't need to be that close.
Yeah, but like in this deal we got over the line, but how many deals are we going to miss out because of it?
Exactly.
There's still going to be deals that we're going to miss out because of it.
Most probably. We'll have to cross those bridges when they inevitably come. On Danjuma, he says, I think Danjuma is a really important player. He can help us a lot. He's a player that for 2 or 3 years in every window he was near to joining some really big clubs. And even last summer, Villarreal rejected a really big offer for him. And when we got the opportunity to sign him, we took this opportunity, and he also confirmed that there is a buy option for Danjuma, and we'll see how he develops over the next 5 months. On Matt Doherty, he was asked about everything that unfolded on deadline day. He said, first of all, I want to thank Matt Doherty because he was an important player for us and he's a super guy, and so this is my first thought. Then I have to repeat, there is a balance between the squad, the number of players in the squad, and the number of players in some positions, and when we get this kind of opportunity, Atletico Madrid is a big club, it's a big opportunity even for him, so I think it's right for everyone to get this kind of choice, kind of avoiding the question of releasing him, really.
Yeah, he's completely just trying to gloss over it, to be honest. I mean, he would have been part of that in that decision making. He should have known the rules more than anyone, to be honest. Fabio Paratici, the one that deals with our transfers. So it's a complete oversight from him, a complete oversight from the club. And it's pretty disgraceful how something like that can happen in this day and age, to be honest. And to end up having to pay him off whatever it may be, part of his wages or the whole thing, and let him go on a free when, yeah, fine, he couldn't have played in the Champions League, but we still could have used him as backup if any injuries were to come. So, look, I'm not too bothered that Matt Doherty is gone. I just thought maybe we could have used him, and the way it all happened is just makes us a laughingstock again.
And it's also very surprising and baffling a bit, the fact that a man like Levy, who's so frugal with his money and everything, and so particular over every a penny spent or not spent, is so willing to let go or pay off Matt Doherty and spend extra money letting him go at the end of a window, and after there was an oversight, but he was so willing to do that, whereas he was also willing to potentially lose some other deals for money that was in similar nature to what we're losing in Matt Doherty. So that's also very interesting in my opinion. I believe you could have got a bit of money from him in the summer with a year left in his contract, maybe 3-4 million in my opinion. I reckon you could have got something for him if you kept him on. So to pay him off like that is an interesting call, but then again, a lot of people, including us, have been calling for the club to be more ruthless. So I'm not that disappointed. It's just very our character from the club. That's all. Yeah,
I do have a feeling though, in terms of paying them off. I mean, I'm not saying this on any basis, just a personal opinion of mine. I feel like Atletico will be paying his wages from now until the end of the season, and I feel like if he does find a new club for next season, maybe him and Daniel did a deal, something like, if you've got a job, we don't need to pay you the wages or something like that.
Potentially. Maybe. And then finally, the last interesting point, he said, talking about the 10, he said Spurs currently have 10 senior first team players out on loan. The question was, I'm just wondering what your long-term plans are for these players. He says we have to divide it because we have some players, 5 or 6 players that are more senior, not older, but like 24, 25, 26. But the other 5 or 6 players are a lot younger, like Dane Scarlett or Troy Parrott. I think some of them have to develop, to have minutes for their career, to grow up, and also to come back home. And the others need minutes because they have to play, because we don't have space in the squad at the moment. So that is what he would say. That is what he said on the current loan players. So not too much very interesting stuff by Paratici, but those are a few of the quotes he said.
What do you expect by something that comes out on the Tottenham YouTube channel?
Yeah,
let's be honest.
And we were told, Paratici will make a statement after the squad, after the window and everything. I'm guessing that's what they're saying it is. And I mean, he says stuff but doesn't really say anything specific.
Yeah, no, not at all. So I mean, I was watching it yesterday and I was basically got nothing from it that I wanted to get. So let's move on and let's talk about a potential signing that we could have got in the January transfer window. Gerard Deulofeu nearly joined Spurs, according to Fabrizio Romano. He said Deulofeu to Tottenham was almost done in January, but he picked up a serious injury, which forced Spurs to look elsewhere. I mean, I'm much more happier with Danjuma than Deulofeu, to be honest. I mean, I'm not sure why we're looking at a player like Deulofeu.
Deulofeu's always one he's a very frustrating player. He's one that can be a world beater one game, and then for the next 10 games, he'll be completely off the ball and completely ineffective. When I remember him at Everton and Watford, he was never bad at those places. Always showed flashes of brilliance. I remember one season at Watford, I think he got 10 league goals, and he was a player. I think I remember him scoring a worldie in an FA Cup semi-final, I think against Wolves. A chip inside the box was a brilliant goal. So he really does have quality in his boots, and he's a good dribbler. But I always felt like in the Premier League, he never quite consistently was able to do it for whatever club he was at. And obviously he's gone to Serie A. By all accounts, apparently he's done quite well. Last season he got 13 league goals. This season he's got 2 goals and 6 assists in 14 games. So seems to be doing better, but I think it's a risk. I guess he's 27 years of age. Maybe he's starting to hit his prime, but I've never seen him on a consistent basis show what I think his quality could be. And I just believe like he's one of these players where maybe he would show flashes of brilliance for us, but he's one where we're always going to be thinking, well, if we want to reach the next level, we'll probably have to move him on.
With 4 goal contributions this year in Italy, playing for Udinese, 2 goals, 2 assists, that doesn't represent any sort of improvements to me from Deulofeu. I know on his day he can be a great
13
player.
league goals last season.
13 last season, 1 assist. Fair enough. But nah, he's not someone that excites me, to be honest. He's just not someone that excites me. On his day, he could do well, but loads of players that we have on their day that can do well. So not for me, Deulofeu. I'm much more happy with Danjuma, aren't you?
I think if we were, I am. First of all, yes, I am happy with Danjuma. I think he's more suited to the Premier League, and also he's probably a lower risk move if we're looking to sign Deulofeu on permanent. Then that would be someone who we potentially would have to shift off if it wouldn't work out. So I'm happy with Danjuma than Deulofeu. I think he's more versatile as well. But Deulofeu, I guess, can cover the right and the left.
All right, let's move on and let's talk about some deals that were announced the day after the deadline. And the first one was Beyonce.
Come on.
Here we go, Beyonce to Spurs On the 29th and 30th of May, Beyonce will be playing at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tickets will be Spurs season ticket holders and members will actually get priority tickets for this as well on sale tomorrow. But yeah, Beyonce at the Spurs Stadium. That's all I'm going to say about it.
And so we'll have Udoji and Beyonce on the left-hand side next season.
Exactly.
To the left.
Udoji and Beyonce on the left-hand side.
Can't wait for next season. But yeah, look, I don't know if I'll be going, but must be very exciting for Levy and everyone to be getting that money through the door that Beyonce is coming in, because it's a very big tour, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Because she's had a lot of long breaks. So the Renaissance, I think it's the Renaissance tour, isn't it, for Beyonce? Showing my knowledge there. So more money for Spurs and for Levy, fantastic.
More money for Levy.
For Levy and ENIC, I should say. And then we'll see how much of that money Spurs get to spend.
Will any of this money be seen in a centre back, in a goalkeeper, please?
Could Beyonce play centre back?
And last but not least, some more money coming into the club as a new sponsorship deal was announced yesterday. The Times report Tottenham have secured a 3-year, £42.5 million shirt sleeve sponsor deal with the South African government. South Korean tourism, which has been met with anger and shock in South Africa due to the record power cuts in South Africa at the moment. The deal is an improvement on the £10 million a year deal that we have with Cinch for the shirt sleeve sponsor. Apparently, it's the 4th highest sponsor in the Premier League ever, this deal. So
sleeve sponsor?
Sleeve sponsor, yeah.
Not just sponsor,
No, sleeve sponsor, sorry. And but there's been protests about this in South Africa, because all of these power cuts are going around all around South Africa, and they're going mad because they think that this money should be ploughed into more on the energy efficient side in South Africa than into tourism sponsors in the UK in the Premier League.
Wow, I can't comment on that. I don't know. But I mean, that sounds like a terrible kind of situation, and maybe something from a PR standpoint Tottenham don't want to be associated with if there's going to be protests about it. Obviously, money-wise, Spurs will be delighted if it's the 4th highest ever sleeve sponsor. It's very similar. I remember, didn't Arsenal have a Visit Rwanda one not so long ago? So I'm assuming it's going to be similar ilk of trying to get up the tourism in their respective countries. So we'll have to wait and see how it develops. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in the future, in the near future, if they renege it, if there's too much pressure from home about this deal. But for the time being, from a Spurs point of view, I guess they're going to be happy with it.
Yeah, it brings in an extra 11 million or something like that into the ENIC's coffers every year.
So $1 extra million per year, then get it.
Pretty much, and Cinch, yeah.
Cinch, sorry, not get here, Cinch.
Yeah.
All right.
So there you have it. That is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know your comments on any of the news stories we brought to you today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.